very first slide, just be unmuted, and then we can
go from there.
Yeah. Okay, so do we want to practice this really quick, just to see if it goes smooth?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending our presentation today. My name is Kira Duffy.
I'm Sasha Evanov.
I'm Jack Kitterman.
I'm Ari Stalaja.
And I'm Jenna Thompson.
Today, we are going to be solving California's aged water crisis through modern solutions. Perfect.
Beautiful.
Stop share. Just saw, where's the waiting room? Because I just saw someone.
I don't think we have to worry about the waiting room until.
Well, it was Sisson.
Oh.
And don't know where she went.
Sisson said not to worry about the waiting rooms at all. She said none of that is our responsibility. It's all
Okay. I was just saying for her to get in because it looked like she couldn't get in for a second.
I think she's also a host.
Yeah, I think she can get in.
We are almost done, you guys. This is the last thing. And then we don't have to worry about Catalyst Day ever again.
Yeah, his last 10 minutes have been like internally just.
All right, well, welcome everyone to our afternoon session of our Catalyst Day. And we have two successive Catalyst 300 presentations in this afternoon session for session D. And Catalyst 300 is designed for students to have a challenge, and in this case, water availability, and be able to come up with a solution for it in an innovative manner. And so these are juniors from a variety of different majors, and they are working on the solution. And so the format of today will be that the students will give their talk, and then the question and answer period will be afterwards. And my co-host for today, Meg Gannon from the English department, is here. She's going to be moderating the Q&A session. Sorry, I'm Barbara Sisson. I'm in the biology department. I forgot to introduce myself. If you have a question at any point during the talk, you can feel free to enter it into the chat, and we will make sure it gets addressed at the end of the session. And so with that, I'd like to introduce our group who's talking about solving California's aged water crisis through modern solutions.
All right, hello everyone, and thank you for coming to listen to our presentation today. My name is Kira Duff.
I'm Sasha Evanov.
I'm Jack Kitterman.
I'm Ari Stalaja.
And I'm Jenna Thompson.
Today, we will be solving California's aged water crisis through modern solutions. Throughout the United States, particularly the Western Coast and Southern California, there is a problem of water supply and in some cases, access to clean drinking water. Droughts in different California affects the water supply throughout the state. The population in that is so great and so growing that the natural water resources surrounding the state cannot provide enough for the needs of California. In parts of the country, California, particularly the counties near San Diego, they rely on California for water supply for their daily use. If there is not enough water storage, then that area will be low on water for a while. California has come up with many different ways to try and solve their water crisis, such as aquifers and other ways to conserve water. As here, the green lines are aqueducts and canals, the are rivers, and the blue shaded areas and other water reservoirs. So as you can see, there is a more concentrated of water towards the north and southern and central California, and all trails down to Southern California, which is where they get their water supply. Having reliable access to clean water leads to potential health risks for the residents. The lack of water affects the nation's farming and agriculture as well. California is a largely agricultural state, and California's agriculture industry supplies crops to the rest of the country. This is because access to water is a human right. California's drinking water is not a reliable source of water for many of the people who live in the state. More than 1 in 10 people residing in 12 California counties do not have a reliable source of water. That is around 718,000 people that have contaminants in the water, such as nitrates from farming and naturally occurring arsenic. Nitrates are bad for drinking water because they affect how the blood carries oxygen. This is especially bad for babies and children, and it can cause methylglobinemia or blue baby syndrome. As you can see from the map, there are some darker red areas that are more heavily affected by the nitrates and arsenic in the water, but it is not necessarily a significant issue throughout the state, but enough for it to be something to address. As mentioned before, this affects the nation's farming and agriculture. California's agriculture industry supplies a majority of the fruits and nuts to the US. If California can't produce as many crops, that affects the entire US economy. There are many previous approaches that California has taken. The first of which is reusing water. This process started in the early 1900s and has evolved to what is now known as groundwater replenishment systems. Reusing water is the idea that any wastewater from day-to-day use, such as doing the dishes or taking a shower, that is all purified and then reused and put back into the water system of California. This system has progressed. Groundwater replenishment systems were created in the 1960s when desalination proved too costly to be beneficial to the state's water crisis. Desalination, by the way, is the process by which salt water is turned into water through reverse osmosis. Because this technology at the time was very slow at desalinating water, desalination was not the primary source for water in California, and they moved to more of this groundwater replenishment systems. To be less costly since contaminated water is easier to process to get clean compared to the process of desalination. This allowed California to slow the growing water crisis in the state. Let me know that desalination is still used. There are multiple desalination plants on the coast of California, but they are still not necessarily super cost or energy efficient. Reusing water has been very successful in being able to retain the water that enters the system of the state. The water is then tested for known harmful pathogens, and they're able to reuse a lot of water each year. There are setbacks, though. California has the largest population of and requires a solution that is not based on the water that is already accessible, rather allows the people of California to access a completely untapped water supply. Another problem with this solution is that in the past, they ignored the chemicals being in the water since they did not believe them to be harmful. All of this is DDT, a popular pesticide used from the 40s before it was made illegal. They didn't realize it was harmful, and so it wasn't out of the water, and it had a harmful impact on the wildlife and people in that area. This solution also does not add any water to the state. If they are already low and having a limited supply of water, it's not really going to be a solution.
The next existing solution is one that is still used today. It is called the Reasonable Use Doctrine. The Reasonable Use Doctrine was implemented in 1928 in California, and it was implemented into their constitution. This doctrine basically essentially encourages reasonable use of your water, just how you use it, how, say you're doing your dishes, your water, varying of how much you use. And it was not just agriculture that this doctrine applied to, it was all levels of government, whether it being the top, the citizens, small businesses, and agriculture. The success of this doctrine, it encourages mindful use. So basically it was on the people, it was on the citizens to regulate everything, even the government. As I said, it encourages self-governing. So people had to look into how much water they actually used for daily tasks and everything they did. Now there are setbacks to this doctrine. there's no, as I said, it is self-governed. There's no official enforcement. So some people could just not even care about it and use water as much as they wanted. Also, this creates a hostile environment. This hostile environment, I've experienced firsthand being a resident of California. I remember a story with my mother. I was gonna water down the backyard, clean it up a little bit, and she told me to be careful because people will see you and you could possibly get a ticket from people. No, it creates a hostile environment with your neighbors, people getting angry at each other for using water or not using enough.
Our innovative solution. Our innovative solution is desalination, but better. Our plan is to create a desalination plant that is powered through solar energy. Our plan is to create a green desalination plant in San Diego to help the people of Imperial, Riverside, and San Diego County. Between these three counties, there are more than 33,930 citizens that have had their water tested positive for contaminants. Our plant would be able to create 3,600,000 gallons of water per day that would be sufficient enough to supply water to up to 40,000 people based on the national average of use, which is around 90 gallons per day per person. Since modern desalination plants only require around 11.5 kilowatts per hour to produce 1,000 gallons of desalinated water, it would take around 41,400 kilowatts per hour to produce enough water. Based on this, we chose a 300-watt solar panel that would produce around 2.4 kilowatts per hour for 8 hours of sunlight. So it would take around 17,250 solar panels in order to power our desalination plant per day. Based on the model of solar panel we picked out, the amount of space required to store 17,250 solar panels would be around 7 acres. So based on that, we would then use the water. We would connect the water that we use from our desalination plant to the existing water supplies by using the existing water pipes that run throughout the different counties. Improved technology. Since solar power has become significantly cheaper over the years, like in 1970, Dr. Elliot Berman's scientific breakthrough with solar panels caused the price per watt to drop from $100 a watt to $20 a watt. But based on the solar panel model we chose, the cost per watt was around 90 cents. And this made our solution much more plausible. For desalination, according to the AMTA in the 1970s, per 1,000 gallons, it would take around 26 to 34 kilowatts per hour in order to get that desalinated water. But in modern day, desalination plants only require 10 to 13 kilowatts per 1,000 gallons of desalinated water. Both of these technological improvements have been what has been able to make this solution possible. Funding. We were primarily relying on two separate sources for funding. The first of being which was grants. The first grant we were looking at was the Water Desalination Grant Program, which provides around $100 million a year in funding to go to different desalination programs throughout the state. The second is the Safe and Affordable Funding for Equity and Resilience. This grant is designed to ensure that 1 million Californians who currently lack safe drinking water will be able to receive safe and affordable drinking water. This fund provides around $130 million per year, and that will be used to develop and implement other sustainable solutions such as ours. The second way we were thinking about funding our project was through companies, investors. Over the last few years, anything that is green, meaning good for the environment, has been very profitable for companies. And something such as a desalination plant that brings desalinated and clean water throughout California would be very profitable and could be highly invested upon.
Now, with potential drawbacks, there come possible barriers. With these barriers, we thought of three main ones: environmental, social, and economic barriers. With environmental, we thought on the lines of EPA restrictions within California with how much pollution that is put into the air and the water, and also environmental barriers upon what animals and biomes that we would be affecting where our plant is built. Now, to combat this, we're doing, as we said, green energy with solar power, so the EPA restrictions might be a little less. Also, we are looking to build our plant on an industrialized zone in San Diego, so it will reduce the impact we have on the environment, whether it be creatures and stuff like that. Social, we have basically who wants the water. Water is a hot commodity in California. Everyone wants it, everyone needs it, whether it be the farmers, personal use, small businesses, all that. What we want to do is for this water to go to the people who do not have clean access to the water in those 3 counties. That is what our mission is. And now our main economic barrier is honestly our funding. We're not guaranteed these grants or the investors. That is one barrier we'll have to get to as we go on. With this is how our program will work, how it will look when it's being built, and how it will work when it is running. Now, we think 1 to 2 years based upon previous research of other desalination plants in California, how long it took to get permits and regulations. We believe doing all the permits and regulations with the EPA, building permits, all such stuff like that would take 1 to 2 years. Again, this is just based upon previous data. It could take less, it could take more. With construction now, once we get all the permits and regulations done, construction, again, we looked at previous projects and converted it because we will be using actually green energy source with solar power. We believe it will take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Again, it can vary from that. And then after construction, the plant will run 24/7, 7 days a week for 24 hours every day, and will produce all the water for those 3 counties for the undeveloped people.
Will it be successful? Yes, and here's why. The desalination plant would be able to provide clean drinking water to the communities that need it and then some. This solution would be able to take stress off the reasonable use doctrine because more water would be in that system. So that way, the reasonable use doctrine wouldn't have to be implemented as heavily within the people. The solution would also be less harmful to the environment in comparison to other desalination plants, proving again that it would be more successful than other plants since it would be less harmful to the environment and more likely to be invested upon since green energy and anything green has been proven to be very profitable. It will also be beneficial to the California economy for multiple reasons. The actual building of the plant will provide many jobs to the construction workers of the areas for around 3 to 5 years, as Jack mentioned. It would also provide business to the solar companies in the area. When in production, the plant would be able to provide steady jobs to all of its workers that come with a good income and benefits such as healthcare. And the sale of the water from the desalination plant is what would be able to make this plant successful. And if it is successful enough, we would be able to expand our idea to other already existing desalination plants, or even be able to make new ones, whether they be in California, on the East Coast, or anywhere along the world with the coastline. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, thank you. So a reminder, if you came in a little bit late, our question and answer period is going to be go through chat. So if you have a question, please put it into the chat, and Professor Gannon is going to moderate those Q&A. So there was, yeah, go ahead.
If you're relying on investors, do you have to deal with the investors calling first rights to the water? Those with money get water, those without go dry.
We were hoping that this solution would be more utilitarian based, meaning like the counties as a whole would be able to purchase the water from our desalination plant. So then it would become more of a county issue, whether if they were getting paid or not. But since we were already getting paid by the county for the water initially. So we believe that the solution would be able to help everyone within that county for that reason.
Thanks. Other questions? I have a question. I'm wondering if you're worried at all about the availability of land on the Southern California coast and the ability to make a new desalination plant.
I don't think we were very worried about that. Within California on the coastline, there are many industrialized zones, whether it be, I've personally seen military bases that are also within industrialized zones along the coast. There is definitely a lot of places we can do without impacting the environment and building upon industrialized zones, so that issue cannot arise.
We have a question. Your planned plant supplies water to 40,000 people. What fraction of the total population is that?
It is a very small fraction of the total California population, and even a small fraction of the Southern California population. But we were really trying to focus on the number of people that had contaminated water. And as we mentioned, in those three counties, San Diego, Riverside, and Imperial, there were 33,930 people that had tested positive for contaminated water. So that was our main goal through this desalination plant, was to provide clean drinking water for those people, because those people have had their water tested, for harmful pathogens in them. And that's what we were really trying to fix. We were just trying to add water to this existing water system of Southern California, since there is water in the system, but there's just not enough for the amount of people that it has. And so we were hoping to take the stress off the entire water system by being able to add our desalinated solution.
Other questions from our audience?
If this solution is successful, where would you implement it next?
So we were thinking that if our solution succeeded in our San Diego area plant, that potentially we could start to renovate the existing desalination plant, be more energy efficient, and then kind of work our way through coast of California that way.
Are there any other questions from our audience? I'm not seeing any in chat. I don't know if you see any, Meg. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, I'll thank our group for presenting, and I encourage you to continue on and join us in another Catalyst 300 presentation that starts up at 2 o'clock with another topic. And yeah, thank you for coming.